Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot coming at you with another installment of the 100 Bolts Retro Review Series. We'll be focusing on Volume 6, Six Under the Gun. Six Under the Gun actually just tells, let's see, yeah, 6 single-issue stories that are, of course, all connected. The first one, admittedly, is 2 connected stories taking place in Chicago. Graves meets with Shepard in a bar where they discuss Dizzy. Meanwhile, Dizzy is in Chicago visiting her family. Visiting her family and friends. Or at least her friends. Catching up, because she's been gone a while. While Graves makes it clear he has plans for Dizzy, and that part of his plans did include Shepard looking after her. However, Shepard has come to realize that maybe Dizzy shouldn't be a part of Graves' plans. Then it also serves as a bit of intelligence passing from Shepard to Graves about the trust. We also get confirmation that yes, Milo Garrett did die in the end of The Counterfeit Detective. With Dizzy, things end after she takes her leave of her friends. Goes to knock on her mother's door. And an older gentleman with tattoos and braids answers. He's got mail for Dizzy's mom. Apparently she didn't leave a forwarding address. The landlord had told him that he could move in when he wanted, but she didn't leave a forwarding address, so he's just been keeping it in case she did show up. Back with Shepard and Graves, they begin to discuss the future of the remaining Minutemen. 2 more brought up, the Monster and the Saint. The Monster is apparently wrestling with demons, and the Saint, well, the less said the better. However, it's the Point Man that Graves plans to activate next. While waiting back with Dizzy, while waiting on a train, she actually does read some of the mail, including at least one that's a final notice, which is where the issue ends. Our next issue focuses on Cole Burns. And much like the previous one, the previous story also tells 2 at once. The first is about a group of stick-up artists going to rob a bar. Meanwhile, Cole has returned to town in search of the woman he left when Graves reactivated him. But she really doesn't want much to do with him. However, Cutting back to our the stay-up crew, I'm trying to get the clerk to open the safe for the money there, but he doesn't have the key for it. Cole and his girl continue to talk. Apparently, Cole sent her a ring. And back with our stick-up crew, one of them makes the mistake of taking off his mask and exposing his face in front of the customers that they're being held hostage. Cole leaves, not exactly feeling his best, while the stick-up crew tries to decide what they're going to do. While they try to make their decision, in walks Cole. Cut to outside, and everyone scurries out, and the getaway driver leaves. We find out that the stick-up crew is all dead at Cole's hand. He takes a bottle of booze from the bar, as well as one of the guns from one of the stick-up artists, and takes his leave. The next story focuses on Benito Medici. His father, one day while feeding alligators, decides he wants to play a game. He invites Benito to come with him, but Benito says okay, he'll go. He wants some coffee after all. Shepard turns out to be in town, though. And Benito's father wants to actually offer Benito some responsibility. However, he decides he doesn't. That's not what he wants. Gets out of the car, go about his own business. Walks into an ice cream parlor, though, and for coffee and then ice cream. Meanwhile, it turns out that the game that Benito's father wanted to play is some dominoes. He ends up losing the game because he and one of the others have a tendency to get more just focused in on playing against each other than the other players. Shepard, however, has noticed a group of hitters nearby, and just by being there scares them off. Back to Benito, though, he's talking with a young girl he met at that he's met. Shepard ends up joining the domino game to explain to and tells Diego that it was just about to be a hit on him, but they saw him and so they left. However, Diego has a very good idea that those hitters are now going after Benito. And yes, they are. And when they get to him, he's flirting with the young girl he met at the ice cream shop. They shoot her and are about to do the same to Diego or to Benito when Shepard puts the rest of them down. Diego Medici's car then shows up, and Benito gets in. He apologizes to his father about his game, but his father's like, "Hey, don't worry, no, don't worry." But he just maybe when they get home, Diego could teach him how to play dominoes. Moving on to the next tale, Lano, who's meeting with Shepard. Shepard has a job for him. Make sure that someone that potentially has some ideas that could lead to exposing the trust meets with an unfortunate accident. He gets paid in $1,000, and he's paid $500,000 for it in $1,000 bills. And so, turns out Lano's staying in a hotel nearby, still with Echo. Echo's bored stiff in the hotel. And so, says, fine, take a few bills out of the 500, treat yourself. Says he'll be waiting in the bar. At the bar, he's having a few drinks, and the bartender tells him that, as long as wanting to break that $1,000 bill, he's going to have to maybe go something a bit more higher shelf. Though honestly, just the bartender could simply pour faster. Lano convinces the bartender to buy him a drink when a couple of cops show up and head upstairs. It flashes back to Lano and Shepard talking when he was initially hired, namely about Graves and the trust. Turns out that that those $1,000 bills were stolen from the bank. Now, Lano didn't rob the bank, of course. But he's now being set up for it. Cop shows up in the bar, pulls a gun on Lano. Lano disarms the cop and ends him. However, the others make their way to him, and Lano walks into a shootout. And Echo has also been taken by the cops. Lano takes a few rounds and goes down, and that's where that issue ends. Next up, we have a story focusing on Graves. Well, partially on Graves, partially on just two people in Seattle. It just so happens that both stories take place in Seattle. Graves is meeting with a few of the family heads from trust. Meanwhile, in the news, the lottery numbers have just been announced. The young couple watching didn't win anything. However, the guy just saw a car go off into the ravine. And so, these three family heads from the trust meeting with Graves. First, tell him that the elimination of the Minutemen wasn't personal, though Graves explains that to him it was. But they want to offer him something. Meanwhile, the young couple made it to the wrecked car. The driver's dead. But there's something in the driver's hand. It's a lotto ticket. A winning lotto ticket. Turns out, back with Graves and the Trust is offering Graves basically his old job back. Help them overthrow the Medicis, and hey, they'll reinstate him as warlord and reinstate the Minutemen. However, Graves kind of says, you guys make up a quarter of the trust. You're in no position to give me to make a deal with me. The young couple meanwhile, are debating whether or not they should keep the lottery ticket. After all, what if the guy's married? His wife's gonna have to deal with all kinds of expenses now that he's dead. Turns out, yeah, and he got like 9 kids too. So. But Graves at least explains that he'll consider the trust position, while the young couple are found by the cops and basically say, hey, look, we saw him go over the bridge, and however, the lottery ticket is filched by one of the officers. Graves, like I said, Graves at least claims to consider the position. Next up, catch back up with Wiley Times. Turns out Wiley's 3 weeks behind on his rent, though thankfully he works. His boss is the brother of his landlord. So at least he's getting some leeway. Then Agent Graves shows up with a briefcase, though Wiley has no interest in it. Opens it, looks inside. The magnum, the bullets, and he adds that evidence that there's also evidence in there of a picture of the person who basically ruined Wiley's life, and evidence to confirm this. At work that night, Wiley and his boss are talking when a rather well-to-do couple arrives. The woman's got a black eye. Goes to the ladies. The guy starts making small talk with them. And it seems that dude is on Wiley's side about how much he's paid. Anyway, then this girl comes back in the office and explains that the toilet's overflowing. So Wiley goes to check it out. Apparently, she's taken her lipstick and written something on the mirror. That something being, he's going to kill me. So, Wiley lets the air out of one of the tires, fills up the tank, and walks back into the office just as the guy shoots Wiley's boss. There's some arguing, and the guy does beat up Willie a bit. But his girl smashes a coffee out of the guy's head, picks up the gun that he drops, and unloads it into him. Wiley leaves and runs into Graves. Police offers him a ride along the way. With Graves explaining that just because that all Wiley wants is for all Graves wants is for Wiley to understand why Wiley is who he is and who's responsible for it. And so he actually looks into the evidence. Wiley actually looks into the evidence. The person responsible is Shepard, and that is where we end things. That's it for Volume 6 of 6 Feet Under the Gun. We'll be back tomorrow with the weekly comic book roundup, and next week we'll be on Volume 6 of Transmetropolitan, and a week after that we'll be back to Volume 7 of 100 Bullets. That's going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.